NASCAR officially announces the Chicago Street Course to the Cup Series schedule in 2023, and it seems like there's continuing to be more growing concerns about Kyle Busch maybe not returning to Joe Gibbs Racing in 2023, and his future being in question due to sponsorship issues. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. We got a ton of NASCAR and other motorsports stories discussed here today on the channel. Let's go ahead and just jump straight into those really quickly. We're going to go ahead and start our paint schemes and sponsorship news first. Let's jump those really quickly. The first paint scheme we're taking a look at is Ty Dillon's 2022 Big Dog Energy scheme that we're going to be seeing later this year at Daytona. Honestly, scheme looks pretty good in my opinion. I like the white and blue contrast. I think Petty GMS had some really awesome paint scheme this year. This one's no exception. I think this one looks good. I'm looking forward to seeing on the racetrack here later this year at Daytona. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Jacques 2022 Chevy Military Appreciation Scheme they're going to see this weekend at Pocono. Pretty good looking paint scheme in my opinion. You get all the red, white, and blue colors. I think overall looks really good. Hopefully Jacques can have a good run in this truck this weekend at Pocono. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Kevin Harvick's 2022 Busch Light Apple Tricky Trivia Scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Pocono. Not much to say here other than the fact the only thing that's different is the Tricky Trivia on the side. They've had 3 different variations of the Busch Light Apple scheme this year. I've always been a big fan of his Busch Light Apple schemes. I think this looks good and hopefully have a good run in this car this weekend at Pocono. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Corey LaJoie's 2022 WWE SummerSlam / Peacock scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Pocono. Awesome looking paint scheme in my opinion. Love the fact that WWE is getting involved in NASCAR. I know a lot of people compare NASCAR to WWE, but I love that SummerSlam is going to sponsor Corey LaJoie this weekend. I think that's awesome, and I'm excited to see this car on the racetrack. It looks absolutely amazing. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Sammy Smith's 2022 Pilot Flying J scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Pocono. I believe a couple other races as well. Really awesome Pilot Flying J back in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. Of course, sponsored by M&MS for many years. I think this looks absolutely incredible. The white and the red match perfectly. It looks awesome, and I'm excited to see on the racetrack this weekend at Pocono. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Todd Gilliland's 2022 A&W scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Pocono. This is going to be a throwback to his father, David Gilliland, who drove an A&W car back in 2013 and 2014 as well, as it celebrates A&W Day. Looks amazing, looks awesome, great throwback to David Gilliland, his father. Amazing looking scheme, excited to see on the racetrack. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is J.J. Yaley's 2022 Always Good Stuff Cheap scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Pocono. Pretty good looking paint scheme in my opinion. I think that Rick Ware's had a lot of good paint schemes, some not so great paint schemes. They've had a lot of good paint schemes this year, and I'm excited to see this one on the racetrack this weekend at Pocono. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Roger Caruth's 2022 Martin Day Perez scheme that we're going to see this weekend at Pocono. Good looking paint scheme in my opinion. The white and the blue match perfectly, and I'm definitely for sure excited to see that Roger Caruth is getting back behind the wheel of the 44 car this weekend at Pocono. I think this is the first time he's raced at Pocono ever, so really cool to see he's racing at Pocono. Good looking paint scheme. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Bailey Currie's 2022 Alka-Seltzer scheme that we're going to see in 5 races this season, including this weekend at Pocono. Very awesome Alka-Seltzer back in the Xfinity Series. The last time they were in the Xfinity Series, I believe, was back in 2004. So amazing that they're going to sponsor Bailey Currie. Great to see that they're back in the series. It looks really good. Excited to see on the racetrack and happy to see Alka-Seltzer back in the series. The next paint scheme we're taking a look at is Santino Ferrucci's 2022 Freedom Alliance scheme they're going to see this weekend at Pocono in his NASCAR Xfinity Series return. Good looking paint scheme in my opinion. Very exciting that Freedom Alliance is coming in to sponsor Santino Ferrucci this weekend. It looks great. Excited to see on the racetrack this weekend at Pocono. And the final paint scheme we're taking a look at is Josh Bilicki's 2022 Ziegler / Rich Mar Flores scheme that we're going to see this weekend. Only difference on the scheme is based on Rich Mar Flores. Other than that, I still think the paint scheme looks good. Looks very solid, and hopefully this will have a good run at the track this weekend at Pocono. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the Jeff Gluck poll from this past weekend. So, Jeff Gluck had to do his poll on Google due to having some issues over the last couple weeks of people basically making fake accounts. They basically tried to appeal to the poll. And according to his new poll, he had an 82%, 7% of people that said yes, Basically, he only has 6,000 votes on it, which is the least since 2018, but I anticipate that as time goes on, that Google Forms is going to increase in the number of people going on to it. I think this is great to see that the poll, at least he moved it away. I think this is a great decision on his part, and I'm glad to see people are generally positive. I thought it was overall a good race as well. Not amazing, but I thought it was overall a really, really good race, and most people agree with me on that. Good to see that the race did pretty solid and pretty well, and good to see that the poll did pretty good as well. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about M&Ms. Now, it was reported by Adam Stern on Monday afternoon that M&M's NASCAR program was so personal to Mars that members of the billionaire Mars family used to camp out at tracks and cook for Kyle Busch's team the night before a race. I think it's really, really cool that they did that for the team. It really just shows how much of commitment they have with Joe Gibbs Racing, the commitment they had in NASCAR. They've been committed to NASCAR for 32 years. It's a shame that they are unfortunately leaving at the end of this year, but they had such a great relationship and partnership with Joe Gibbs Racing. They sponsored Kyle Busch in 2008 up until the 2022 year. I think this is such a cool story and so amazing to see the M&Ms had a great relationship. Of course, M&Ms is sponsoring the Pocono race here this weekend, the M&Ms Fan Appreciation 400. So, of course, M&Ms is showing their appreciation for what they've been able to do in the sport. I think it's really amazing, really, really awesome for sure, and I'm very happy to see that M&M's had a great relationship in NASCAR and with Joe Gibbs Racing. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Toronto and IndyCar. As according to Bob Adam Stern, grandstand tickets sold out, and estimates were for about 50,000 people were at the whole Toronto race weekend. I think that's really good to see attendance is there for Toronto, considering they've not raced at Toronto since 2019 due to pandemic. The fact that basically were able to sell out grandstands, considering they've not raced during 3 years, I think, one, it shows people really want to go back to Toronto. Toronto always puts on a really good and amazing racing as well. Yes, street circuits don't always put on the greatest racing for IndyCar or whatever series races there, but the fact that people came out to this race, it just shows that people are still intrigued with IndyCar, at least up across the board. People are tuning in. Now, I'm not sure what the TV viewership was for the race. Again, TV viewership probably was around 50,000. They never really released those numbers on even Adam Stern never released those numbers, and no one ever released those numbers. They probably aren't going to because it was on Peacock. But those were the numbers for the attendance. Attendance was really good. It's a shame that not a lot of people got to tune into the race, see Scott Dixon make history due to the fact it was behind a paywall on Peacock. It is what it is, though, and it's good to see at least a lot of people tune into the race. It's good for sure, and very exciting to see that we got to see a lot of people basically go to the race. It's a shame, though, that it was not on live TV, in my opinion. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the W Series. Now, this is called basically the Women's Racing League that basically is funded by the Formula One. And according to Adam Stern, W Series has seen extraordinary inbound interest from potential American sponsors after the Miami race weekend, and it's looking to grow its presence in the U.S. significantly heading into 2023. While I do think this is cool in some areas, what is a little frustrating is the fact that a lot of these females that are racing in this series, including Jamie Chadwick, who's won multiple championships in this series already, a lot of these, what the series really meant, hopefully I was hoping for, was I was hoping this was going to be a good for the ladder system in the world of racing, and we're going to see these females basically get an opportunity to race basically in different series and get an opportunity to go up the ladder. I thought that was really the intention of the series, and it's definitely a little unfortunate that basically women in the series don't get that opportunity. I think that is something that's absolutely really, really frustrating, and I wish it's something that we can really, really solve, but it's nothing we can really do about it. It is what it is. But again, I definitely love for sure to see this situation get resolved and some of these people get an opportunity to race in different series. It's really, really unfortunate and really, really frustrating, but it is what it is. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Jacques Villeneuve. As Jacques Villeneuve is making his return to the Penny Series in late August, and will be racing in the Penny Series race at Troy Revere for, I can't remember exactly which team he's running for. I think it's going to be for Dumoulin Competition Racing in the 07 car, but competing at Troy Revere in the Penny Series. I believe this will be the first time that Jacques Villeneuve has raced in the Penny Series since 2014 and 2015. Of course, the winner of the Indy 500 in 1995 and also the 1997 Formula One champion, and one driver who's also been racing a lot of different series, including in the NASCAR Euro Series, and now he's coming back to Canada to race in the Penny Series. I think this is awesome, to be honest. I'm glad to see that Jacques Villeneuve is basically going out there and racing in different forms of racing and trying out and coming back to other forms of racing as well. and trying out a lot of different things. Of course, like I said, he raced in the Daytona 500 earlier this year. Has been racing, I believe, also in the Euro Series at points throughout the year as well. I think this is amazing. I don't think he's going to be competing for the win. I expect drivers like LP Dumoulin. I expect other drivers like Fij and all those people that are racing the series to probably beat him. But I think it's amazing just to see that Jacques Villeneuve is coming back to the series. I think it's awesome. Very, very great. And I'm happy to see as Jacques Villeneuve is going to be back racing in the Penny Series. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Ronnie Bassett Jr. As it was announced and the entry lists have been revealed, and Ronnie Bassett Jr. is going to drive the 77 for Bassett Racing this weekend at Pocono. Now, I do believe that he will have to qualify his race, basically qualify in the race, because I don't think that he has enough points. And, of course, we know that they basically have enough entries to not make the show right now, so he's going to have to qualify his way into the race. Bassett Racing has not been able, I believe, to make any race so far this year, so they'll be looking to make the show. But Ronnie Bassett is a very talented driver who's really never gotten an amazing opportunity to race, so I'm hoping for a good run for him if he can make the show, but he will have to qualify his way in to the NASCAR Xfinity Series race this weekend at Pocono, if I'm not mistaken. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Tate Fogelman. As Tate Fogelman is going to drive the 26 for Rackley WR this weekend at Pocono. This will be Tate Fogelman's second attempt to race for Rackley WR. He unfortunately failed to qualify to make the Truck Series race earlier this year at National, and they'll be looking to make the field. Two people will go home, so they don't have enough owners points to make the field currently at the moment, so he'll be looking to have some speed and some pace, which I hopefully they will, because they've had a lot of pace recently. Hope they can have that same pace. If he can make the show, I think he's got a top for top 25. The trucks have been pretty solid. I don't think Tate's overall the greatest driver in the world, to be honest, but hope Tate Fogelman can make the show this weekend at Pocono. And now we're going to head and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Tyler Hill. As Tyler Hill is going to drive the 5 for Hill Motorsports this weekend at Pocono. This will be the third or fourth race that they've either attempted or made this year. Tyler Hill is a very, very talented driver. Not as good as his brother Timmy, but Tyler is a good enough driver. I think he's got a really good chance to make the show and have a really strong run. Hopefully Tyler Hill can do good enough to make the race and make the show, and hopefully he has a good run this weekend at Pocono. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Mason Flipley. As Mason Flipley is going to drive the 90 for DGM Racing next weekend at the Indianapolis Road Course. I believe this is going to be Mason Flipley's second NASCAR Xfinity Series attempt, as he already attempted earlier this year, I believe, at Portland. I think he ended up making and finishing the race, but I think he ended up finishing multiple laps down due to, I think, either some electrical issues or something did not go wrong. Of course, he also raced in Mid-Ohio earlier this year in the Truck Series, and really things did not go right there. They basically shut the truck out and basically brought out an intentional caution in the race as well. But I don't think it's Mason Flipley's fault. I'm really hoping Mason Flipley does have an opportunity to make the show, and hopefully does good enough to make the show next weekend in the Indy Road Course for the NASCAR Xfinity Series. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Stephen Parsons. As Seth Parsons will drive the 5 for Beach and McLaughlin Motorsports this weekend at Pocono, with Kelly Auto's Nissan sponsoring him this weekend. Really awesome, Stephen Parsons back in the Beach McLeod Motorsports camp. He'll be running, I think, only 1 or 2 more races after this one for Beach McLeod, and will run a majority of the races this year in the number 45 or the 44 car for the Alpha Prime Racing organization this year. Hoping the best for Stephen Parsons this weekend. Stephen, I think, is a very talented driver. He's had some really strong runs at Beach Club Motorsports and, of course, at Alpha Prime Racing as well. Wishing the best of luck to him. Excited to see him racing the 5 car, and hopefully he'll have a good run in this car this weekend at Pocono. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Austin Hill. As Austin Hill is going to drive the 7 for Spire Motorsports this weekend at Pocono. This will be Austin Hill's second start of the year with Spire Motorsports, as first start came at Daytona earlier this year, which I believe is competing for a top 10 and finish, I believe, in the top 15 or top 20. I anticipate Austin Hill being a really good contender in this race. It's good to see Spire Motorsports back in the series, and I think that Austin Hill is going to do really strong this weekend. I think when you look at the talent pool for the 7 truck and look at how good the talent's been, Austin Hill, I think, is going to be a contender to win. He's going to have that Xfinity Series experience, which I think is really going to play a factor in helping him out going to victory lane in the race. I'm excited to see him back in the 7 car this weekend, and hopefully have a really strong run this weekend in that truck. I think it'd definitely be amazing if he could win the race. I don't think he's going to win, but I think it'd be awesome if he definitely could have a chance at getting the victory in this race. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're talking about Cole Custer, as Cole Custer is going to drive the 07 for SS Greenlight Racing this weekend at Pocono. The reason that he's driving is because Joe Graf Jr. will be out of the car at least for a little bit due to a personal family matter that we're not going to get into. But Cole Custer will be behind the wheel. I'm wishing the best of luck for Joe Graf Jr., but I anticipate Cole Custer contending for the victory. He's definitely one of my favorites going into this race to win. I just don't know if that'll translate to the Cup Series. Seems like he does well in the Xfinity Series, and then in the Cup Series, he doesn't do very, very well. That being said, though, I'm definitely wishing the best of luck for Cole Custer this weekend. I think he will definitely be somewhat of a contender to go and get the victory. I think he will have a chance to win, and it'll be a good threat to win the races this weekend at Pocono. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Ricky Stenhouse Jr. As it was revealed that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is going to drive the 48 for Big Machine Racing this weekend at Pocono. This will be the first time that Ricky Stenhouse Jr. has competed in the NASCAR Xfinity Series since 2016, when he drove the 60 car for Roush Fenwick Keselowski Racing in the Xfinity Series back in 2016. Now, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., the reason he's doing this is to get a little bit more experience for the Cup Series, as he still needs to go out there and win a race to make the NASCAR Cup Series. Plus, he's going to a track where he hasn't had a lot of great experience well and has really not run that well. So I do think that experience of racing in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, I think, is really going to help him out a lot. Yes, I know he's been in the Cup Series so many races, so you wouldn't think a guy like him would need Xfinity Series experience, but I don't think any sort of lack of experience would really help. So I think him running a series will be great. Now, what are my expectations for him? I think he will be somewhat of a threat to win. Big Machine Racing has shown that they contend for victories. I think he's going to at least contend for a top 5. I think he'll be a threat to win, though, and I think it would be not a surprise if he does go to victory lane in the Xfinity Series race this weekend at Pocono. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we are talking about Lane Riggs. As it was officially revealed from Homer Friesen Racing that Lane Riggs is going to make his Truck Series debut in a couple weekends at Indianapolis Raceway Park. I believe actually next weekend, as a matter of fact, at Indianapolis Raceway Park, driving the number 62 for Homer Friesen Racing. Lane Riggs, for a lot of you do not know, currently competes in the late models, has won a lot of major late model races, and Lane Riggs has also been doing very well there, and of course is the son of Scott Riggs. Lane is an absolutely amazing talent, and if there is a perfect track to get some experience and race on, this is the perfect track to get that experience on. That would be definitely, hopefully he has a good enough run. I don't think he's going to go out there and win. I don't think that's a goal for him. I don't think his goal is to go out there and win, but I think it's such an amazing opportunity for Lane Riggs. He's going to have that opportunity to drive in the Truck Series for the first time. He's a guy who absolutely deserves it. I'm so excited for Lane Riggs. He's a good driver. He knows what he's doing. I think he will absolutely be a threat to go out there and win. He's a really talented and great driver and will be somewhat of a threat, I think, to win. Hope he does good in the 62 truck for Homer Friesen. We know that Todd Bodine is making his final start of the year's 800 Career Truck Series start, making his final start at Pocono, and then he'll be in the truck to start off the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series playoffs. And now we're going ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to go ahead and talk about Parker Kligerman. Now, Parker Kligerman basically, and this is reported by Adam Stern yesterday, he says that Parker Kligerman says that his truck win at Mid-Ohio earlier this month has led to some new potential opportunities that he's exploring in Cup and the Xfinity Series. Parkland currently drives part-time in 75 for Henderson Motorsports, has also made 1 or 2 select Xfinity Series starts in 35 for Emerald Gase Motorsports, and got a top 10 in the 35 car. Despite that car struggling most of the year, he got a top 10 in that car and ran extremely well. Parker Kligerman also has been looking to race in Xfinity and trucks, and of course, basically that win in Mid-Ohio has offered him opportunities. Now, this is not the first time we've heard anything in regards to Parker Kligerman, as Parker Kligerman has said recently as well that even before the win of Mid-Ohio, he had some opportunities to race in Cup and Xfinity. Now, what are some opportunities he may be looking at? Maybe looking at the 42 car, perhaps. That 42 car is going to be open at the end of this year. He could be one of the drivers that could potentially be a favorite to get into the 42 car. Maybe a Spire Motorsports car in the Cup Series, perhaps. We don't know what's going on with Sega's Spire car, but I know Landon Cassidy's having some sponsorship issues in that ride currently at the moment, and it's unclear if he'll be back in any sort of cars next year in 2023, and I can't really get into much more Parker Kligerman other than that. And then maybe, of course, when he goes to the RCR car in 2024, that is also a big possibility. Maybe he goes to one of the RCR rides in 2023. That is a potential option and a very big possibility. Maybe a 33 RCR car, perhaps. Who really knows at this point? I just think Kligerman absolutely deserves this opportunity. The guy's been doing extremely well. I think in all the series combined, I think he is the most underrated driver in every single series combined, and he absolutely deserves an opportunity to race in a top-tier series and compete. He's a great driver. He knows what he's doing, and I really hope and pray he does get that opportunity to race. I know that Henderson Motorsports is looking to run full-time in the truck series, and I would love to see him go full-time. It's got to find a sponsorship in the funding for them. But I really do want to see him get an opportunity to race in every other series and get an opportunity to race there. Really cool for sure. Teams are looking at him, and he's looking to have some opportunities to race in other series. I think it's awesome. Really, really great. And I'm happy he's looking to race in other forms and other series here in the future, to be honest with you. And now we're going to go ahead and draw to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Tyler Reddick. Now, Tyler Reddick was on SiriusXM NASCAR radio and was asked some questions in regards to his future, and that he will be, and was asked about his future with RCR, if he will continue driving for RCR heading into 2023. Now, I've already talked about this on the channel a lot of times, but Tyler Reddick basically said on the episode, he said that he reiterated his commitment with RCR through 2023, basically saying that he wants to finish what he's doing. He's a guy that likes to finish his contracts and his deals with organizations, and basically wants to get his contract done and finish it with Virtual Racing through the 2023 year. Now, some people do believe that he potentially may not finish his deal with Virtual Racing, including some on the NBC broadcast have said that they don't even know if he's going to finish his contract with the team. For Live, he also not been paying attention. He basically will be leaving RSR at the end of 2023 and will be going to 2311 Racing heading into 2024. It's unclear currently moment if he's going to drive the car and replace Kurt Busch, who could retire at the end of the 2023 year, or if he's going to go into a third 2311 racing car. There's some potential they could run a third car, but they're more likely going to need a charter, and charter prices are going through the roof, so a lot of people are speculating that he is going to take over for Kurt Busch once he retires. I think Tyler Reddick absolutely deserves this opportunity, and I think that RCR would be smart to just keep him at least through 2023, and I'm going to explain why. Well, I think it'd be great for speculative purposes for him to leave the organization at the end of the 2022 season and go somewhere else, because I don't think they're going to drop him now. I think that would be petty if they drop him now and drop his performances now. They're a team that is a championship caliber threat, well, an underdog for a championship, and they've shown a lot of pace this year. But I would definitely think that if you're looking at Tyler Reddick, they want to give him the best opportunity to contend as possible. I think if they're going to mess with him, I think that'd be really, really unfair. So, in my honest opinion, I think what they're going to do is they're going to give him the best opportunity they can to give him good rides and give him as good of a possible run. I want to see Reddick finish. I think he will finish his contract through 2023, and I think he'll go over either the 45 car or a third 2311 car. We'll see what happens, but he will end up at 20. We know he's going to 2311 Racing, and we'll see what happens in regards to that in the future if RCR gets a little petty and drops him early. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about Auto Club Speedway for 2023. Now, I was looking up some information on some potential dates for the 2023 calendar, and I found out that according to a website that basically does attendance stuff, now this is not 100% confirmed, so keep this in mind. According to the website, apparently the Cup Day for the Auto Club race is going to take place on the February 24th to 26th weekend. I did put the 27th on that tweet, but then I realized it's a Monday on the 27th, so it'll be the February 24th to 26th weekend. And according to the articles, it will be on the 2-mile track. Now, I've talked to some people on this, and I've gotten confirmation that more than likely this is what it's going to be, that they are going to have this as the date for 2023 is going to be on the 2-mile track. We know that they basically have delayed the project at least for another year. They basically confirmed that they've delayed the project, and they'll be back in 2023 on the 2-mile course, but they could be going to the half-mile circuit that they're planning to run in 2024, but again, we have had no confirmation on that. In my honest opinion, I'm excited to see that they're going back to the 2-mile circuit. I do think that in the future, I'm actually for them turning it into a half-mile racetrack, and if it doesn't eventually become the season finale, I would absolutely love that. However, I am a little skeptical the racing may not be as good. We know that the short track package hasn't been great, though I will say it is a bank track, so it might help. And in all honesty, I think some of the shorter ovals this year, they've been starting to be a lot better. Gateway's been better. Nashville kind of, which is kind of similar, was pretty good. And New Hampshire was actually a really, really good race as well. Most people really, really enjoyed that race, despite a lot of concerns with the package they basically ran. You got the best in both worlds, in my opinion, when it comes to that. But I think them going and running the New Hampshire, basically coming back to the racetrack, is absolutely well-deserved. It's a great facility and a great racetrack, and keeping the 2-mile circuit, at least for now, I think is the best option you can go with. I think that's really awesome for sure, and I'm glad to see that they are more than likely going to run the 2-mile circuit and have it the week after basically the Daytona 500. So, and also I saw that Vegas more than likely will be the 3rd race of the year again next year, and then there's a lot of schedule announcements that are coming in the future. The schedule is expected to be revealed here in the next couple weeks. It said sometime in August it's going to be released, so I anticipate in the next few weeks the schedule is going to be released, including a big schedule change that we're going to get into later in this episode. And now we're going to go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about the New Hampshire TV ratings from this past weekend. So, according to Adam Stern, USA earned a 1.45 rating and 2.43 million viewers. That is basically for the Ambetter 301. That is up from a 1.26 rating and 2.113 million viewers for last year's race on NBCSN. Now, keep in mind, last year's race had a little bit of a rain delay, but this race being up nearly 300,000 viewers, and basically the most watched event at New Hampshire since 2019, and very comparable to 2018. I think people are starting to realize that there is a network called USA Network. And for the first couple of weeks we had USA Network, whether it was on with Nashville or whether it was basically with Road America, ratings were horrendous. But 2.4 million viewers, that's a huge increase from last year's race, which had 2.1. That's actually almost more than normally NBCSN races last year. I think, one, people are starting to find and basically find USA Network, but two, I think that there's really doing a much better job promoting the network as well. And let's be honest, it's basically become NBC Sports Network at this point. You've got Tour de France on there. You've got other series like Emmis and stuff being on there. And of course, you have the Law and Order SVU marathons, but I think this is such a major, major positive in major ways. And I hope that they continue this trend of going up in ratings. And we're going to a racetrack like Pocono. I'm not sure how it will be when it comes to TV ratings, but I think it's becoming much more promising and really good for the end of the year. Again, I was really concerned with the move to USA because not as many people had it, but I think people are starting to finally realize that there's a network called USA, and it seems like more people do have USA than had the NBC Sports Network. So I think this is awesome, amazing to see for sure. And I'm genuinely very, very happy and very excited to see that basically the ratings were really, really good for this race. I think that's exciting, to be honest with you. We'll go ahead and jump on to the next story of today's episode, as we're going to talk about new potential markets that NASCAR is looking into for the long-term future. Now, we're going to talk about the major announcement here with regards to the Chicago Street Course in just a little bit. But according to Adam Stern, he reports that Ben Kennedy says they want to continue to explore new markets. We've talked a lot about the Pacific Northwest and the Northeast as well. We might be all opportunity for the future to go to Canada and Mexico as well. Let's talk about the Pacific Northwest and Northeast because there's a lot of different tracks up there. But before we get into that, let's talk about why they're talking about this. And I think a lot of it is to chase those newer fans and basically go to different markets as well. In the Pacific Northwest, you basically have tracks up in the Seattle area. You also have a track called Portland Raceway, which they got up there in the NASCAR Xfinity Series here. And while it did rain there, it caused a pretty crazy and really entertaining race for sure. That basically saw a victory for AJ Allmendinger over there. And first time Xfinity Series has raced there ever. And the first time NASCAR had raced there since the 2000 season for the Camping World Truck Series. I would love the Cup Series to go over there and race in Portland on the northwest side of things. I think it's such a really good facility and a great area as well to race up in the northwest. Rain will more than likely be a great factor over there, but that would be definitely an area to look at. Then you go over to Pacific Northeast and what tracks in the area. You've got Stafford up in the Connecticut area. That's a track up in that area. But you have tracks in New York. I know that they've talked maybe wanting to race on the streets in New York as well and get into that specific location. But I think they should only have one street race. So that's where the Chicago announcement comes in as well. And then, of course, you get into Mexico and Canada. NASCAR has been trying to talk about this many, many times. They do want to go international. They want to start going international and going to different areas of the country as well. Down in Mexico, they want to race. They've talked about wanting to race in the streets of Mexico. They've also talked maybe going back to the Autodromo Hernando Rodriguez track where Formula One currently races and NASCAR raced in 2005, 2008. They've talked about racing in those specific areas as well. And then up in Canada, you've got a lot of different areas. There's a lot of talk about the Truck Series returning up to the Canadian border, racing Canadian Tire. There's also Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, the Story Rivera Circuit. You've also got the Exhibition Palace. If you want to bring a street course race up into the Canada area, you've got the Exhibition Palace racetrack for that series. And then, of course, it would also help the Penny Series grow as well. I will give NASCAR a lot of props on one thing. They are not against being bold when it comes to their schedule, and they have made a lot of bold and innovative changes over the last couple of years, and I give NASCAR a lot of props for that. I think it's great that NASCAR continues to be bold and innovative when it comes to their schedules and the schedule changes that they are making in the sport. I think it's great to see for sure. I think it's amazing that NASCAR wants to continue to generally be bold and innovative with everything that they're doing currently at the moment, and I hope they continue to be bold. I know they've also talked about wanting to race in the Denver area. There's a track called Pikes Peak International Raceway that they used to race at. Why not race in the Denver, Colorado area? They've talked about racing over there. You've got tracks in Salt Lake City. You've got tracks in, of course, maybe like down in Louisiana. I want NASCAR team to explore different areas to go to they've never explored before. I think it's great to see for sure, and I hope NASCAR continues to be as bold as possible when it comes to their schedules. I want them to continue to be bold. I think it's great to see that they're trying to be bold, and it seems like in the next couple of years. And also, you've got that stadium concept that you could really run and go different areas and maybe try the All-Stars at all these different stadiums that are very, very possible. So I think it's really, really exciting. Really, really cool, and happy to see NASCAR is continuing to explore potentially going to new different markets as well. And now we're going to jump on to the first of two major stories in today's episode, as we're going to talk about Kyle Busch and the uncertainty of his future with Joe Gibbs Racing. Now, we've talked about this a lot on the channel, but one of the reasons we're talking about this is because Kyle Busch's sponsor, M&MS, has dropped Joe Gibbs Racing. He'll be leaving at the end of this year, meaning that Kyle Busch is going to need a new sponsor. Let's begin with what happened a couple days ago. So right after I filmed the video for the last time we talked about Kyle Busch, basically Bob Parker's put out a report on what Joe Gibbs said at New Hampshire on Sunday. And Joe Gibbs says he's very surprised that the sponsorship search for Kyle Busch has continued in July, and they would like to get the deal done sooner than later, and they're doing their best they can to find a sponsor for Kyle Busch. They're very, very shocked. And then last night, Dustin Long put out a report, an article in regards to Kyle Busch, and basically said that Kyle Busch, the sponsor that he actually been looking to get for 2023, that technology company that was looking to sponsor him, the one they were very, very close to signing, they had basically dropped off Joe Gibbs Racing's radar, and unfortunately, they will not be the one to sponsoring Kyle Busch heading into 2023. On top of that as well, they have said it seems things are not looking really, really good when it comes to the Kyle Busch camp currently at the moment right now, and they already are beginning to look at a contingency plan in case Kyle Busch does not return to Joe Gibbs Racing in 2023. Now, this is not the first time we've seen sponsors wait till the last minute to sponsor. We've seen situations like 2020 with 2018 or 2019 with Jimmy Johnson, where Jimmy Johnson lost Lowe's out 2018, and they need a new sponsor for 2019. The major difference here, though, is Jimmy Johnson already signed a contract extension at the time that would go through 2020. Kyle Busch's contract right now only goes through 2022, and we all thought he was going to be good for 2023, but now it doesn't look to be the case. I'm going to be a little honest with you. I am starting to get a little more concerned about Kyle Busch returning to Joe Gibbs Racing heading into 2023. Now, again, I already talked about sponsorship is still a major issue, because, again, I think Joe Gibbs wants him returned. Kyle Busch wants to return. He says until something is announced, that he probably will still end up in the 18 car. And Dave Wilson wants them to return, but he said, I'll be honest with you, I can't really basically BS or nothing. We're kind of in trouble right now. We're having issues still finding that sponsor for Kyle Busch. Now, why are they having sponsorship troubles? Well, Kyle Busch is a guy who really wants a major, major pay. He wants to get paid a lot and a ton of money right now, and I think he's earned that right. He's the only two-time Cup Series champion. He's won more races than anybody else in the Cup Series, and really in NASCAR in general, over 200 wins in all three series combined, and 60 Cup Series victories as well. Has won a lot of major iconic races outside of Daytona 500, of course, but he's won a lot of major and iconic races, and I think if anyone deserves a big sponsorship, it's Kyle Busch. The problem is, all these sponsors that want to sponsor Kyle Busch, are they willing to pay the money that M&MS is paying? Because we know that M&MS is paying like $25 to $30 million a year. That's a lot of money. And I know a lot of people think, well, wouldn't Joe Gibbs Racing just pay out of pocket? No. They basically said in the article, if you actually read the Dustin Long article, they said if they don't find a major sponsor that's sponsoring for the majority of the season, they're not going to sponsor Kyle Busch. They're not going to re-sign him. And that's really, really disappointing, too, because Kyle Busch, I think, deserves to be back in the 18 car. But if he doesn't return the 18 car heading into 2023, man, oh man, y'all thought Tyler Reddicks' announcement was absolutely crazy of him going to Joe Gibbs Racing? Well, this would be absolutely crazy. Now, where could Kyle Busch end up if he doesn't return to Joe Gibbs Racing? Obviously, there's a couple options. Stewart-Haas Racing could absolutely be an option next year. We know 10 car right now is still available, and we know that Eric Arnold's had some considerations to return to the Joe Gibbs, has had some consideration to return to Stewart-Haas Racing. Whereas also said that he really doesn't know if he wants to come back full-time or not heading into 2023. He really never said he wanted to return on a full-time basis, but he said he's maybe has had thoughts about returning. You've also got a wild theory that's going around, and this is not very likely, but a wild theory that I've heard a couple times from people is that we have a trade-off for 1 year. You have for 1 year Kyle Reddick go to the 18 car, and then Kyle Busch goes to the 8 car for 1 year. I think that's unlikely, but that could be a really crazy possibility as well. Regardless, I don't know what happens to Kyle Busch heading into 2023, but man, the fact that they're having trouble, he even said this past week, and he said he's had conversations at other teams. It's never a good look when they've also had a contingency plan. Now, what is this contingency plan for perhaps? Contingency plan is Ty Gibbs. Ty Gibbs tearing up in the NASCAR Xfinity Series right now, and they've said that if the situations happen Kyle Busch and they can't get it re-signed, that Ty Gibbs more than likely jump up the Cup Series on a full-time basis. But the fact that Kyle Busch does not have a sponsor for 2023, and he's arguably the most successful driver of this era, he's won 60 races, has won a lot of races. It's very disappointing and really, really frustrating, especially for Kyle Busch fans. And I'll be honest, I feel for Kyle Busch fans right now. I think the fact that they have not found a sponsor or anything for Kyle Busch is really, really concerning. Now, do I still think he more than likely returns to the team? Yeah, absolutely. I still think there's a really good chance he does return to the team. But it is concerning the fact that they don't have a sponsor for him. I think the fact that they don't is really, really concerning and is a little bit frustrating if you are a Kyle Busch fan, in my opinion. It's really frustrating and it is a little concerning, in my honest opinion, that it's a little concerning. And now we're going into the final major story of today's episode as we're talking about Chicago Street Course announcement. As it was finally officially revealed yesterday that NASCAR will be officially confirmed that they will be racing on the Chicago Street Course, will be racing on there on the weekend on July 1st through 2nd weekend. IMSA will be partnering up with them, and it looks like it'll be the GT Series, and they'll be racing on the 1st, and then the Cup Series will be racing on July 2nd, replacing Road America. It'll be a 2.2-mile racetrack. If you can see on the basically you've already seen, the layout basically has an build, and it will be the same lot that they basically use for the iRacing Pro Invitational event. Because of this announcement, also, it is a 3-year deal with track. The track will be around for 3 years, from 2023 to 2025, and we already looked at the layout. However, because of the Chicago Street Course announcement, Road America will not be returning to the Cup Series schedule, and will be off the Cup Series schedule for 2023. However, nothing's been confirmed for the Xfinity Series, so there is still a very strong possibility that the Xfinity Series may return to the schedule for that racetrack in 2023. But I've also heard through the grapevine that there's a very big possibility that maybe they will also race on Chicago Street Course in 2023, but nothing is confirmed at this point when it comes to the NASCAR Xfinity Series schedule. This is definitely one of the biggest announcements of the year for sure, and probably one of the most important announcements in NASCAR history as well. Why? Well, the NASCAR Cup Series has never raced on a street course in the past as well. And we're taking it to one of the biggest cities in the world, in Chicago. Chicago is one of the most populated cities in the United States as well, and that's a big reason. Now, there's definitely a lot of things to talk about, positives and negatives for sure. Number one, we're taking a street course to one of the biggest cities in the world. Like I mentioned, Chicago is a massive, massive city, so we're taking it to the streets. Next thing, I think it really shows the diversity of the NASCAR schedule as well, and NASCAR's bold innovation as well. NASCAR has such a major diverse schedule heading into 2023. They've got a dirt race. They've got a bunch of intermediate tracks, a bunch of 1.5-mile tracks, a bunch of mile racetracks, some 2-mile racetracks. They've got super speedway tracks, tracks like Atlanta, Daytona, and Talladega. They've also got short tracks as well. They've also got a football stadium they're racing in, and now they've got a street race and, of course, a ton of road course race as well. Tell me another auto racing series right now at this moment where basically you are getting this much diversity on a schedule. Oh, wait, because you're not going to get another schedule that is basically like this. And another big reason is you're bringing it, like I said, to the fans as well. I think that's a major positive right there, is you're bringing it to the fans as well. Instead of fans having to drive an hour out to a track like Chicago, which we'll get into that in a minute, you're basically bringing it to the city and you're bringing it to the fans as well. And you're basically bringing it for the casual fan as well. So that at least is a positive right there in my opinion. And some of the photos that have been surfacing in the last day or two, what they're trying to render and make it look like, it's going to look like an F1 suite, and are open to have major Wi-Fi upgrades as well that a lot of tracks do not have. And NASCAR has all said that they will be footing the bill, and they said that they are promoting this event as well. Another big positive, this race is going to be on the main NBC. That is a big positive right there, and I'm not surprised, and I think it will get a ton of people watching, not only because NASCAR will be really promoting the hell out of this race, they want to promote this event, but also Chicago is going to be helping with that as well, but there's also a chance Lori Lightfoot might be out of office by that time as well. Here are some of the negatives, however. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I am not as excited for this event as some people probably think I should be for. I know some people have already said this, but I'm not excited for this event for one major reason, one reason only. Don't get me wrong, I like the idea of a street course race. I love that they're adding a street course race to the schedule. It brings more diversity to the schedule, and I love that they're doing this, and I love it. Again, they're doing stuff Formula 1 is doing, but Formula 1 is doing a lot of great things, and NASCAR is trying to find ways to get there. Here's the negative, however. You're taking away Road America. Now, do not get me wrong, did Road America produce the greatest Cup Series race in the world? No, but I don't think it's entirely the track itself as much as it is the car. And while the attendance for this race in 2022 was not as good as it was in 2021, you still had almost 100,000 people show up, which only, I believe, the Daytona 500, if I'm not mistaken, beats that in the attendance numbers. Not even Talladega beats that, and Talladega gets a lot of great attendance. And you are taking a date from the track. That's a little bit disappointing right there. You're taking away from Road America right there. And Chicago, let's be honest, a lot of its fans are not big fans of some things as well. And I would definitely have liked this race to be at a different area of the country, like a Long Beach perhaps, or even like in Houston or whatever, where cities are growing, even in Nashville, but you got the Indy race as well. I'm a little concerned about this as well, that the racing product itself too is going to be great. If you looked at that layout, there's not a lot. Where are the passing zones going to be? Where are the haulers going to go? Where are generally the passing zones going to be for this racetrack as well? I think that's one of the negatives right there, is that there's probably not going to be a lot of passing in the event. I don't think NASCAR really cares about that, but I think if you really want fans to stick around, you got to have generally a really, really good racing product. Back to one quick positive, though. They're having a big concert. That's a big positive right there, at least. But, again, the negatives are is that the racing layout does not look great. I know that NASCAR said that they had looked at some other layouts they're looking at in interest, but I do believe that they're probably going to run this layout. They said this layout made the most sense, and I guess it makes the most sense, but they should be looking for areas that have, some more passing zones. There's way too many straightaways. They should have had at least a little more passing zones. Maybe some chicanes to set up, potentially passing zones. That could be an option that they go with. But I still think this is a big deal for the area. Now, I know a lot of people want Chicagoland back. Trust me, I do too. But it seems like at least for the next years, unfortunately, Chicagoland's going to be off schedule. I know there's been a rumor and rumbling that Chicagoland could come back in 2023 and cancel lose a date. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens right there. If Chicago comes back, that'd be really, really cool. But at the same token and same time, I am disappointed that we're losing Road America. I'm disappointed we're losing Road America. I'm not angry about it because I think coming around people will be happy. I think what the majority of fans are basically thinking right now is basically the reason we're not upset. We're not upset about having a street course race. That's not the problem. You're taking away Road America. That's the negative for fans. Road America, and it feels for a lot of fans up in there, it feels like what happened in North Wilkesboro in 96 when they waited for Cup Day for a long time. Now, Road America itself will survive. They're going to probably potentially have a spinning next year. I hope they do. And they're going to have IndyCar as well, and they're going to have a lot of fans still show up. And NASCAR's not ruled out possibly them going back to Road America long term, at least on the Cup side of things. So that at least is a positive. Now, I still think this is a big deal for the sport. I don't know if this is a big win for the sport, but I think I've agreed with a lot of changes they're making. I love their boldness, and I get that they're being innovative. I'm just not the biggest fan of this event, but it is what it is, and hopefully this event does succeed. I want it to succeed as much as anybody else, so hopefully this event does succeed for NASCAR. So, anyway, that is it for today's NASCAR and Motorsports video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notification to be notified when a video that does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and for me on page on list schedule over that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts about the Chicago Street Course race being added for 2023? Let me know in the comments below. And what are your thoughts about Kyle Busch's future, and do you think he will return to Joe Gibbs Racing or not? Let me know in the comments below. Tomorrow on my channel, I've got a special product that's going to be coming out about 10 drivers who could be replacing Tyler Reddick in the 8 car heading into 2024 or even 2023. So that'll be coming out tomorrow. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.